Thanks for everybody joining us. First order of business is roll. Go out and see everybody. Richard. Bill, here. Crystal, here. Christy, here. Heidi, here. And Richard, can you hear us? You can hear us, we can't hear him. Lost the table.
Oh, I think I did that, sorry.
Rachel takes it for us. There he is.
Everyone, your chairs up front.
Yes, now, Richard. You, without a question.
Get that? Just a minute.
Okay, it's connected now, so.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, are we still waiting on Richard? Audio.
What's that? I'm gonna, that's my next question, so.
Okay, yes, go ahead, Mom. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll move on to the next question. Greg, do we have a live feed going out? Okay, sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but.
You have. We got 18 attendees, so yeah, we're live.
We're live?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. With that, if you guys would all join me for flag salute and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. First order is agenda consideration. Do I hear a motion to accept as presented?
I'll move to accept the agenda as presented.
Oh, no, here.
Oh, sorry.
Ricardo.
Okay, did you get that, Diane? Okay. Motion and second, is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote, voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Richard, I see a thumbs up. Thank you, Richard. Agenda is adopted as presented. Moving along, so our next order of business is public comments. I see I have 10 people, it looks like, who would like to speak. We received a number of submitted much more than that in terms of written. The written part is all part of the public record, and it is up on our link. But those that would like to speak, I have somebody who wanted to go first, and Diane told me that was Hannah. Was that, no, Rosenblatt, is that right?
I thought it was Hannah. No?
I'm
Megan? Megan.
Okay,
I'm a basketball game director.
okay. So in that interest, if you would go ahead and come up, and we will begin with public comment.
Do you want me to sit here?
What's that? Yeah, I think because of the number, we're gonna limit you on time, so if it goes extra long, we'll be cut off, so please keep it brief. We have a lot of comments that are of the same opinion, and I want to get to it as many as possible, but if you guys have the same things that you want to express, and you can combine those, that's also helpful too, rather than repeating the same thing over and over again, so. Go ahead. Name.
My name is Megan Patzer. I'm a parent in the school district. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak. Thank you for your service to the North Marion community, and I want you to know that I appreciate your volunteer work that you do for our community and our schools. The last board meeting, I submitted my public comment to be read because it was a virtual meeting, and then this meeting, I wanted to fill out the form for the intent to speak, and this is just a kind of a side note. I couldn't find that link like it has been in the past on the website. And so I had to talk to Diane. She sent me the link graciously. Thank you. But it seemed that the comments were preferred that they were made in advance so that they could be previewed. And at my last public meeting, I kind of questioned the transparency of the school district. And I wonder if this kind of comes into question with transparency, if you are questioning the comments that are coming towards you and wanting to preview them before they are made public. So I wonder. Anyways, in preparing my comments, it was important for me to understand your role as board members. So I looked at the Oregon School Board Association as a definition, basically that you guys hire the superintendent who then hires staff to put into practice the policies that you make and that you decide on. And that you serve the community, that you must work with the public to establish the mission and direction of education, is up to the board to engage in educating the public on your policies. My understanding is that school is our business. We're in the business of kids. It seems that at the forefront of every decision that should be made, the question should be asked, what is best for kids? As the North Marion School Board, you will be tasked in the next month or so with making a policy that will have lasting effects on our children. The state of Oregon has held the responsibility up until this point, and the state, in my opinion, is guilty of child abuse by covering our children's faces. As policymakers in the North Marion community, what evidence will you use to make the decisions about whether or not to continue covering the face of our children? What impact have the emergency policies had on academic and social and emotional development of our kids? The answer on a national, state, and even global level is truly, we don't know. And that's only because they don't have peer-reviewed evidence at this point. But we don't have to look farther than this room to know what impact it's had on our kids. I personally have had to make an urgent medical appointment for my child to get them on antidepressants in a very urgent way. We don't have to look farther to know that these kids have been impacted by the emergency procedures that supposed experts have made for our kids. Will you ask parents? Will you ask the kids? Will you ask the teachers what is best for our kids in this district? Will you be asking speech pathologists and teachers of young children developing language if they have noticed a difference in young students' ability to learn letter sounds and reading skills when made to cover their faces? North Marion also serves a large population of English language learners. Will you be asking ELD teachers and students of ELD to weigh in on English language development while having their faces covered. We ask kids every day to manage the choices at home and at school. As parents and as a parent and a former teacher, my goal has always been to empower kids to become self-managers, for children to make mindful choices by weighing consequences, safety, and behaviors. Please, please allow families to decide what health practice is best for them. Allow choice. If people are still scared of COVID and have impaired health, they can still wear a mask. If getting N95 mask is difficult and our federal COVID funding does not cover the cost of masks, ask the community to come together by donating those masks or money to purchase those masks. If the board votes to continue to require children to cover their faces, then you are voting to continue the hindrance of child development. You are voting to continue to damage the academic growth and the social, facial cues and recognition and the emotional devastation of our kids. You are complicit in harming children if you choose to keep masks on our kids. That is the opposite mission set forth by the state for school board members. Please, I ask you to fight for our kids. Please look for alternative answers. Look outside of the box for solutions rather than continuing to cover kids' faces. As board members of this community, we ask you to not hide behind the excuses of insurance policies. If parents need to sign a waiver for their kids to breathe fresh air, let us sign a waiver. Please help our kids in this community to begin to grow and learn and thrive again. Again, all decisions need to be made with the question, what is best for children? On the first day of school, my children were required to choose their pronouns. If this board has approved a policy for teachers to require children to choose their pronouns, why can't children choose to breathe fresh air? If the board approves for teachers to choose whether or not to get a medical vaccination during their contractual hours, why can't families choose to have their students breathe fresh air during the time that our taxpayer dollars are paying for their education? Thank you.
Hannah Rosenthal.
I'm just going to read my comment, but I am Hannah Rosenthal and I am a parent and a community member as well. So dear North Marion School Board and Superintendent, somewhere, the universal mask mandates in our school need to end on or before March 31st. I know there are going to be parents and teachers who believe that they should stay in place, but their right to choose to continue to wear a mask is just as important as one's right not to wear one. Over the almost 700 days that have passed during this pandemic, we have learned so much about this virus, and although it is very, very real, it is also very, very survivable, especially for our kids. It's time to stop hurting our children and conditioning them to believe they are dangerous vectors of a disease who must cover their faces at all times. The decision to wear a mask or not is a personal one that should be decided on by what is best for each individual. For some, wearing a mask is the best choice, and for some it is not. The choice needs to be available for each family to make on their own. I wholeheartedly believe that parents have the best interests of their child at the forefront of every decision they make for them. So giving parents and families the ability to do what's best for them is imperative. When it comes to our children, parents are the experts. Please let us decide what is best for our kids. It's our job, not yours. Thank you.
Mariah Rosenthal.
Dear School Board, my name is Mariah Rosenthal and I'm in the 8th grade. Each day at school, I am forced to wear a mask for 6 hours and 45 minutes from 8 a.m. to 2:45 p.m., plus a 20-minute bus ride home. I also am required to wear a mask during PE, which makes it extremely hard to breathe while doing physical activity. Starting on January 24th, middle school students started being threatened if they were not wearing their mask properly. This is not okay. Threatening to give referrals to kids who are not wearing their mask properly is a fear tactic and it is unacceptable. Just recently, Alsea School District made masks optional. You claim that if we do that too, we will lose all our funding, which is simply not true. Over the past 2 years, Oregon schools have received $22 million in COVID-19 funding. You claim that we have to wear masks for our safety, but is it really about our safety or the money that you care about? Thank you for your time, and please make masks optional again.
Gwen Cox.
Hi, and it's very hard to hear, and I have to admit, our children, they're just suffering. And I know I probably said some of what they have said, but I think we need to give our children back their dignity, their freedom, and their social skills, which I believe these affect. And that's about all I have to say. I did make a comment, but I just really feel it's time to stop this. Our children are more important than what's going on.
Yes.
Brooke Newkirk.
Hi. I prefer to stand up because then like it's more out. Hi. Yeah. Hi, my name is Brooke Newkirk. I'm in 7th grade and I go to North Marion Middle School. Today I will be speaking about masks and why we shouldn't have them in our school, or they should be optional. I wear a mask from 8 a.m. to 2:45 p.m. I wear a mask 6 hours and 45 minutes a day. That's not good for a kid to breathe air constantly back and forth from a mask. I have PE, or I have 7th period PE, and I work out on workout Wednesdays. I wear my mask in PE because I don't want to get a referral and be sent to the office and then get in trouble and have a suspension on my record. That shouldn't be a thing. One day I was running in PE and I felt really like I couldn't breathe. I'd been running and doing laps around the gym because we had a basketball unit that week. I just felt like I couldn't breathe and I didn't know what to do. So I sat on the floor for a minute and then I got lightheaded and I went to the office to get a water cup and drink water. My PE teacher was understanding, but at the same token, I took off my mask on the way to office and I still felt like I couldn't breathe because I'd been starved from breathing for about 6 hours now, other than lunch. I'm a natural athlete. I play volleyball, softball, and growing up, I did ballet and gymnastics. I've always been very fit and I've never had a point where I couldn't breathe. That's not okay. And I go on runs almost every other week. All growing up, this had never happened. I was wearing a mask. Sorry. All growing up, this had never happened, but it did when I was wearing a mask. No one should ever have to feel this way, like they can't breathe. I felt like I was going to get in trouble because I wasn't wearing my mask on the way to the office. And to remind you, the way to the office is about 5 feet from the gym. I know you guys want the best for us kids, but masks are not the answer. I shouldn't have to be scared to get in trouble in my own school that I grew up in. I can't breathe while running in the gym. There are so many things at the school that you could get in trouble for. If you're always doing the right thing, my parents say, you don't have to worry about getting in trouble. But not wearing a mask isn't wrong. But I can get in trouble for it. I'm pretty sure breathing is the right thing to do. Someone I love once told me, if you really care about something, you'll find a way to get it. And trust me, I really care about this. So let me tell you something. Me and my friends are going to stick up for what we believe in. And honestly, what would Jesus do in this moment? He would stick up for what was right and not let other people tell him. Thank you, school board members, for this time. Please remember that I'm just a 13-year-old girl who wants to see people smile, even when I'm depressed and I don't feel like it.
Jennifer Rosenblatt. I have somebody who filled out an intent to speak but did not fill in their name. If that was you, this is your time.
I think that was me. Go, Kelsey.
Can you please state your name?
Kelsey Van Tassel / Newkirk.
Woo!
Why are school board meetings virtual and not in person? When our students are in school actively participating in sports and activities, our board meetings most definitely should be in person as well. With the recent announcement of indoor masks coming to an end by March 31st at the latest, when will North Marion allow our students and our teachers to unmask if they choose? If If the mask was effective, I believe the potential harms could be justified, but the scientific evidence says the opposite. If we do not get any real, if we don't get any real efficiency from the masking, but clearly produce harm, such as loss of collective student intelligence, delay in nonverbal communication recognition, then the use of masks should be made optional. School board members swear an oath to the Oregon and US constitutions and are charged with the setting good policy based on good legal and professional standards, and in the case, good science. The CDC changed more guidance on January 14th, this time concerning face mask clarity. The cloth masks offer the least protection. The research is and has been clear since before COVID-19 about the ineffectiveness of face masking against airborne viruses, and it has been clear about how masks are harmful to students. I am asking that you, Ginger, as our superintendent and as school board members, immediately change the COVID masking guidance to optional for all. Put parents back in charge of determining what they feel is best for their students regarding masks. Without this change, our school district may be seen as complicit and held liable by imposing undue harm on students. Their learning, health, welfare, and safety by continuing with one size fits all, outdated by unscientific mandate that is not supposed or supported by CDC. Respectfully, Kelsey Newkirk.
I have an Ann S. I don't have a last name. Ann S.
Dear North Marion School Board decision makers, we will continue to rally until all this goes away. Adults are free to enjoy themselves, eating unmasked in public places and sports events, and stay unmasked in their offices. However, our kids are being traumatized, yelled at for not wearing masks properly for 8 hours a day. Important classes, college planning events, celebrations are being canceled. Awesome teachers and staff leaving. Staff and students faced with too many ultimatums. Kids are afraid of having to stay home, even when they don't have COVID, getting on the wrong side of staff and teachers, major mental health needs for all. The list goes on. We need an immediate solution. We cannot continue to drag this on. It has to end before 3/31. 3/31 has no significance. You guys got to get on the ball. This is overwhelmingly stressful for us parents that try to work for a living, and then our kids' mental health, our own mental health, their community's mental health. Universal masking policies in schools have not come without costs. In Oregon, where CDC mask guidelines are rigorously adhered to, children have not seen the faces of their teachers or students, classmates since 2020. This has affected our children's social skills, increased suicide, anxiety, stress levels, respiratory and skin infections, and I can vouch to my kids going through some of this stuff and their friends. Puking daily, headaches, low oxygen, claustrophobia. Masks cause low self-esteem. Hiding behind a mask because of low self-esteem and low self-image. My child wants to hide behind a mask when she goes to a public space. Several times I've had to say, come on out. Nope, she had to stay in the car. During their most vital years, they're teenagers. They need to be able to grow. We are saying this is helping them, this is not helping them. We're harming them for years on end. I don't know if my child is going to be ready for college. I don't know. As a parent, there's so much stuff to do already. And we put so much pressure on ourselves as parents. And now we have to deal with something that makes no sense. There's no common sense behind any of this. And because the money is being fed into the system, people are hiding behind that money. My child today brings his buddy home from wrestling. And I say, you guys want to come to the board? Oh no, they won't even listen to us. They don't care. They just don't hear us. This is a sophomore ready to go conquer the world. And he realizes that people, I just don't know. I don't know as a parent how I can help this child get to that next level, okay? And these are all his friends saying the same thing. They're getting harassed in the hallways. They're getting, she mentioned it, she's afraid to get in trouble. My child pulls her mask up so tight that she's not a troublemaker. My kids are not troublemakers. They pull it so tight so they don't get in trouble. Like, what is that telling you? You guys are putting fear into our kids and it's unnecessary. And you guys have it's decreased dramatic learning and development. Maintaining aggressive mitigation policies are no longer necessary. Let parents choose what is right for their families. As a society, we're not moving forward, but we are moving backward when it comes to education, effective communication, and strong communities. Mandates are causing a major divide in our local communities. Let parents and students make the choice of whether or not they wear a mask. If someone chooses to wear a mask, aren't they protected? How does somebody else wearing a mask protect that person that's already wearing a mask? Let's use some common sense and allow people to make their own mask and vax decisions with care. As parents, we're not going to put our children into a bull pit. We know what our children need. We know what our families need. We're not going to put somebody else at risk. That person knows before they head out that door, are they at a high risk? If they're at a high risk, they better protect themselves. We are not going to go out there if we have COVID. Common sense. We have common sense. We can use our brains. Let us get there as a society. First and foremost, we need to protect our children's mental health. This has gone on far too long, and we all know that COVID is much more manageable than we assumed in the beginning. We appreciate your immediate attention. Best regard, concerned parent and community member. Thank you for your time.
Okay, that was everybody on my list. Is there anybody else? We don't have time to open it up for tons and tons of people, but is there anybody else who
Yeah, right here.
My
didn't
dad's
sign
right
up?
there, by the way.
Yeah, I thought I signed it.
I also didn't realize I needed to sign in there and submit, so I'd like to speak as well.
Okay, so these two, yes.
Okay, so my name is Oren Newkirk. I am asking that the school district reviews the OSHA and OHA law that requires businesses, public entities, colleges, and high schools, middle schools, all the way down to elementary schools provide water for our students. From my understanding right now, North Marion School District is in violation of that by requiring students to purchase water bottles. And I'm just asking that the school board review that prior to us reaching out to the state regulations. Okay. So I just ask that be corrected. The next one is a facility meeting area. We passed a school bond that allowed us to have larger facilities, 4 meetings just like this one. I'm requesting that the school board please choose properly for us to have a bigger facility where we can get larger support. As you can see right now in our crowd, we're all stuffed in the back of the library room. So I'm just asking that the school board review that. The next thing, obviously, in my personal opinion, is that we all watched the Super Bowl last night. A lot of families did. 75,000 people unmasked. Yeah, and yet we're still here asking you guys to review it I understand that there's additional COVID relief funds, and I'm asking, what would it take? If that was something that the district was open to, what would it take in the funds category? Okay. And so I'm just asking you guys to look at that. Thank you for your time.
Marisa Harriman. I have two kids here right now, fourth and a senior. Good evening, school board members. Some good news has come. Oregon will be ending school mask mandates effective March 31st. I cannot tell you how excited I am, my kids are, as well as many other families, as you can see behind me. This means it will now be in the hands of the district to decide how mask handling or how mask wearing should be handled. I hope that the district will allow that decision to be in the hands of the parents. Parents should always have been in charge of their child's health, and with the end of forced masks, we can now do that. Please allow parents to make the decision to mask or not. I attached an article for you all to read. One of the authors is an OHSU employee. She works there, so I thought that would kind of hit home for everybody. And then I'd also like to read an excerpt from the article. Despite how widespread all-day masking of children in school is, the short-term and long-term consequences of this practice are not well understood, in part because no one has successfully collected large-scale systematic data, and few researchers have tried. Mental and social emotional outcomes are hard to observe and measure and can take years to manifest. Initial data, however, are not reassuring. Recent prospective studies from Greece and Italy found evidence that masking is a barrier to speech recognition, hearing, and communication, and that masks impede children's ability to decode facial expressions, dampening children's perceived trustworthiness of faces. Research has also suggested that hearing impaired children have difficulty discerning individual sounds. Opaque masks, of course, prevent lip reading. Some teachers, parents, and speech pathologists have reported that masks can make learning difficult for some of America's most vulnerable children, including those with cognitive delays, speech and hearing issues, and autism. Masks may also hinder language and speech development, especially important for students who do not speak English at home. Masks may impede emotional recognition even in adults, but particularly in children. This fall, when children were asked, many said that prolonged mask wearing is uncomfortable and they dislike it. So I just encourage you to do your research. Thank you, guys.
All right, with that, we will move on with our agenda. I wanted to thank everybody for showing up for public comment. As much as.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When will you guys decide what you're doing with the new information they just released?
We have a report on that coming out. Obviously, no decisions have been made yet, but it is actively going to be part of our next work session, which is in 2 weeks from tonight. We'll actually be getting into the details of it, where we can go as a district, how we can keep our kids safe, still follow the guidelines that may still exist, because we don't even have a clear definition of what being open is yet, and we need that time in order to get a definition. So no, it's not a question answer period. Sorry, I shouldn't have gone there, but
I do, maybe I could clarify one thing, is that the guidance for the general public sector, the businesses and those areas are slightly different than schools. So they are allowed, if metrics go a particular way, to possibly remove the mask mandate for the general public in those businesses before March 31st.
Why are kids
For schools, our guidance is that it is March 31st and no sooner. And that's and that was as recent as this afternoon. That is our guidance. That we didn't make that up, but that's why it sounds a little bit different and can be a little bit confusing along those lines. In essence, and this is part of that report, so that the districts and areas have time to prepare for making that move, because there would be work to do should a board or community decide to do that. But the guidance is different for general than for schools.
And just another quick question, do you guys have, with that guidance, is there a certain threshold that you're waiting on? Like, is it case numbers, is it?
I haven't
We're
seen
not
that
doing
yet.
the question
Yeah,
answer.
yeah.
Sorry, that's not part of the meeting. I would ask you to just stay tuned. We are working through it. I can tell you, I've dealt with it every day and we'll be dealing with it every day for the next probably 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It is not something that weighs lightly on any of our decision making. I can't speak for the board, but we definitely hear you. I appreciate you guys showing up. Let us do that work. Let us get to a point where we can make a decision and come to a policy that will give us the greatest freedom and keep the keep kids in school. Again, part of that is the guidance we're having to follow if because we don't have clear definition yet as to what happens when we do have an outbreak. Then do we have to quarantine entire classrooms? Because that's not what anybody wants, is to have an entire classroom out. Again, these are all things that we have to factor in. There's lots of us to process, but just be assured, we are definitely working on it a lot. Okay, next item.
So if people do have questions that aren't being addressed, who can we address?
Yeah.
You can send any one of these board members an email or.
Anyone of you.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll answer questions through email.
Go ahead, Crystal.
Okay, moving on to item number 2. I have just a brief brief presentation to read on Black History Month. February is Black History Month, and there are many ways that you can explore the rich history of the Black historians in America. These stories of struggle and triumph have helped make up the detailed fabric of our nation's history and the world. This month, take a moment to learn about our historic American figures who achieved greatness in education, science, medicine, the arts, and government, and who helped achieve civil rights and freedoms despite the difficulties and hardships they faced. As we stand here today, knowing there's plenty of work that still needs to be done, it's important that we recognize the achievements of those legends who came before us, giving us courage to continue forward. Moving on in the agenda, ODE. Steve, we sort of got into that a little bit, but I'll turn it over to you. Do you have any other thoughts you want to share?
Absolutely. Let me kind of systematically share, with the board kind of where we're at and where we're moving. And my reports to the board. So I'll address you. So on the 7th, we got new guidance from ODE and OHA, indicating that mask mandates would be lifted for the general public, general sector, at least by March 31st. At that same time, they indicated that schools would be lifted no sooner than March 31st. So March 31st is the first day that schools could operate, should boards decide, could operate with the mandate lifted. And in essence, it just lifts the mandate. It still strongly advises masks, as a preventative method, and kind of uses the language of, a decision maybe about making masking optional. And so that's in essence a way to frame the decision that the board would make. It does mean that there is local decision making then at that point. So so that is a decision that local communities can make, regarding their students and their schools. The reason that the school is different, but the no sooner than the 31st, then maybe sooner than the 31st, is because our health officials, who are guiding these decisions, want to give a chance for as many children in the community or adults as well to be vaccinated as possible. So just kind of trying to give more room for more vaccinations or for boosting vaccinations, which get people up to date. Because some of our protocols, around staying in school or staying at work have to do with the level of vaccinations that we have. There's also a real interest, hope in getting our hospitalization rates down, and they believe that by that date, those hospitalization rates can be down to a point. And it's not just, the care for individuals who might be sick with COVID, but as we all know, because a lot of beds are full, that everyone, general care, the whole broad range of healthcare is a little harder to access, when those rates are high. So, but there's every indication that they're going to be lower, and that's why those targets have been set for those days. As you know, schools may still require masks. They're able to make that decision, and the guidance will, when it's revised, will still strongly recommend masking as a preventative method. There's also shared today that, as you know, sometimes your county health, makes decisions for us around public health and those kinds of things. So there's always that, because we'll work with our local health officials, there's always the possibility that a local health authority, could weigh in with a requirement. It doesn't seem likely at this time, things are going, but we know that can happen, dependent upon the condition.
When you say it was shared today, who was doing the sharing? Who was that coming from?
Every Monday afternoon, we have a meeting with ODE, and they usually have guests from OHA and others, and it's for an hour, and it's to actually kind of walk through this guidance and help us make sense. And so now that's something, now that there's new guidance, everyone is really back trying to make sense of, kind of what the implications are for making various types of decisions.
So are the links that are in here reflective of today's conversation or not yet?
I didn't see them.
No, the RSSL hasn't been updated. Right now, they're in a little bit of transition. They're trying to look at what is right now and try to help us anticipate what protocols we have to have in place, if we make different decisions and if we make changes down the road. And that does take a little time in preparation because things will change. And I'll mention a couple of those things that we have to consider while we're doing that. We do know that there are some nuances to this. Masks, as it stands right now and going even 31st and beyond would still be required on buses because that's a federal guide. The transportation comes under federal, not state.
Not to chime in, but I just saw a document that says that school buses are exempt. Is that not true?
That's not
From the US government?
Yeah, that's not true from the current
I'll look
guidance
for
that we have. Okay. We also know that and so that's just a condition where even if, as we think about possibly making changes, we also have some things that stay the same. That's one we can't adjust, the federal government, can. We also know that we have because they reduced the quarantine time, from 10 days to 5 days, come back on the 6th. There has always been the requirement that if you come back on that 6th day, that you're required to mask for days 6 through 10 of that quarantine to come back to school. And that would not be lifted as we know it right now. So there would be, if someone was quarantined 5 days and they come back on the 6th, they would be required actually to wear masks for days 6 through 10 of their quarantine. And we have to figure out how to track that and keep track of that and those types of things. So that's just if things change, we still have these nuances to deal with. We also know that we still have some exceptions for unvaccinated employees. And part of the agreement is that, that they wear masks. So you would still have you still would have the implementation of that exception for your employees, your unvaccinated employees. They would also need to continue to wear masks, even if the other aspects change. So-
That was part of the, that requirement we just read, that was found in the RSSL.
Yeah, I'd like.
That's
to-
that's actually out in the, that was a different rule, that was a different law that isn't affected by, by RSSL, but it is maintained in, in the guidance.
So can we get those documents? Because I don't have access to those documents, and as we're making choices, we need access to those documents.
I think that's what we need to give the staff time to get all that stuff together to show us on the 20th.
Right. Well, Candy already did. They already made their choice. So I just feel like we're given the documents the Friday before the workshop.
Yeah.
I want the documents beforehand so I can review them all, make an educated decision.
Yeah, so some of what I've been doing for the last 2 years is trying to update boards short of the documents being updated. The RSSL is always a little bit behind, when things actually go into place, because they're scrambling to try to get those documents updated too. So I don't know when an actual updated RSSL document would come from. That's why we have these regular meetings with ODE, you know what I mean, to hear from.
So like the vaccinated employees, the document you're referring to now, and that versus unvaccinated employees, because that would all need to be into the contract and the MOUs. So we should already have those documents if you've seen them.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're documents, they're things, there are overlapping pieces of legislation. You know what I mean? And this may change, but this didn't change, so you still have to kind of figure out how to work that into our new systems. What I'm trying to point out here is there are some places where masks would still be required, that creates a, whether it's awkwardness or something, for a school district to work with. Other things could change between now and March 31st. Shockingly, things could change.
The ever-changing code.
But those are some things that folks are working through right now, and that's the kind of thinking that's having to go on, around the state and thinking about moving forward. The other things that to be thinking about is, as when we changed last time, there is a prediction that if masks were to be made optional, that there would be more days of missed school by both employees and by students. So that's in the modeling, that's a prediction that would happen.
Is that due to illness or due to quarantine or both?
Both.
Where's the model?
And let me walk through a couple of these other things, and it might make sense. So with the right now we have a test to stay program. We have quite a number of kids involved in that program. The test to stay program requires universal masking for it to be able to be administered. So if masking was optional, we would no longer be eligible for test to stay. So that's one of those areas where kids would have to kind of do their quarantine if they weren't vaccinated.
Whose decision is it that the test to stay would go away? Is that an ODE decision or OHA?
It's probably OHA. I mean, I can look back to be sure, but that sounds like that's an OHA about epidemiology and some of those kinds of.
And we could use some of our COVID relief funds to pay to keep that program going from a district level, couldn't we?
It's not about the money, it's about the spread.
Yeah, but the test of stay, if we wanted to do test to stay as a local decision, we could.
I'm not sure about that.
Why not? Certainly research that we can do, because that's definitely research that could be done. And those are the things that need to be put in place. So when we come back for work session, I would like to be fairly robust in terms of us actually working through some of this stuff.
Exactly. So it's not like this is the decision that was made and that's how it is.
Yeah, it can't be that way. It's gotta be, so Paul Dacopoulos is joining us already for another related issue. He is also gonna be joining us to give us some legal guidance on this as well too, so.
Yeah, because it should be like the board decision through what's going on.
It is the board decision.
Well, right now, I think the decision is whether to make masking optional or not.
On that, that's.
Yeah.
on the 31st.
Yeah, and some of these other things are the implications of, of making that decision. The other thing would be that, just by the nature of things, it would increase the workload for contact tracing. Because you would go revert back to the kind of the old rules of close contact, which is within 6 feet. And, we know that many of our buildings are, we actually we aren't designed to keep 6 feet of, of distance in our regular classrooms. So without masks, that 6 feet, 15 minutes, within a 24-hour period becomes the definition of a close contact.
But that depends on if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated.
You still have to do the tracing first.
Correct,
and-
but
and-
the 15 minutes mask depends on if you're unmasked, if you're unvaccinated or vaccinated. So there's a whole bunch of other rules and guidance with those. It is.
Right.
You can
No,
look it up. I'm just saying the things that you're telling me, like, it will be this contract tracing, it's going to depend on if they're vaccinated or unvaccinated, on how many of those.
Glenn, I was wondering if we may just, and this is maybe my own challenge because I'm remote, if we just give Bill an opportunity to go through his report and then maybe open it up for discussion or comments, if that would.
We're technically are we in the agenda?
No, I don't know if you have more.
No,
to
I
come later.
thought we were on the board communication announces mandatory school masking overview presented by Bill.
Yeah, and this was.
Oh,
this
okay,
was actually-
so we're just a little bit out of order.
This was it, no, this was actually his position in the agenda, so. Because this had to deal with board communication, it really is, it's,
We're on 2 weeks.
yes,
Okay.
yep.
I'm on the right side.
Go ahead, Bill.
So anyway, you've got back to the 6 feet rather than the 3 feet that we were allowed that 3 feet, before it would be considered close contact with masks on. Now it goes back to 6 feet again without masks. And in essence, those were just some of the things that we know would be slight changes we have to consider in our protocols, as we should we decide to make the masking optional. And that's just not saying that it's anything you can overcome. It's just those are systems that we have to place and things that we have to consider. And I just kind of say we're looking forward. We know that the board has charged Ginger and the district with getting more information together. We know there needs to be, continuing outreach to hear from community and students and staff and others, about their wishes or their thoughts and concerns about those things and making that decision. We intend to have information around that for the 28th, as well as I know Agnes is putting together some information, just around our, kind of patterns and trends of cases and contacts and tracing and those types of things that come from that standpoint. As you said, I think our friends at ODE and OHA will be a little further down the road, so they're working on, kind of helping to make things clearer and clearer too, as the questions come up to them from boards and school districts and those types of things. And we also know that we should have some information from our local public health officials about kind of where they see our community and our area and our region around those things too. So look forward to being able to put those together to be able to process on the 28th.
So if you guys have specific questions that are generated, that obviously we can't answer tonight. If we could get those in place next week, so that we know that that's something we're gonna have to work through on the 28th. I'm just trying to put the timeline together. So if you guys have specific questions that were generated tonight or that you want clarification on, so we can be best prepared to actually work as a work session, please either forward that to myself or Ginger. If we could get it in next week, that would be the best. So
Mhm.
is that fair?
I
Go
just
ahead.
have a question about that. I don't know what Ginger's status is, but I don't know when she was, I don't want to overburden her because of her health, so
Sure.
should we,
Yeah.
is there
can
somebody
we-
else we should?
I would start there.
We can still be, okay.
There are some aspects of this already in motion. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. We've
I
had
just
a whole
didn't know
week.
if we should, I don't want to bother her if she's trying to recuperate.
Don't worry, you got President's Dinner. They love the holidays. OHA.
Yeah, I would say we've had a whole week since this came out, so.
So when can we, as a board, expect the answers to those questions or the pre-stuff, so like.
Yeah.
we
So-
can read it.
so
So it's
my-
not, I can't do that on a Sunday night.
So my-
24 hours
my-
later, right?
Exactly. So my timeline is to be able to go in with informed questions, concerns, options. Hopefully to come out of the 28th meeting with some clear options and then be able to go to our February business meeting to make a decision.
But when will we get the stuff that's gonna inform our 28th, February
Because-
28th?
well,
meeting?
yeah, 'cause I mean-
You know,
No, that's why if you have
Christy and I
questions
are
coming next week.
researchers.
You're gonna have to keep your questions coming because we're involved in conversations where those things are getting clearer and clearer just about every day.
Like,
So
can we reach out to see how Canby made their decision already?
Yeah, I already have, but.
To get some of their insight of what they used and then, I mean, I don't wanna go around you. Do you want me, like, as a board member, to reach out to the other boards that have already made
Sure.
kind
You
of
wanna do research?
hunted around
I know
it?
like Umatilla, I believe it's Umatilla has a fairly robust set of guidelines already. It's fairly complex from my understanding. It's a lot of cohorting. And it's a lot of
'Cause I-
separating unmasked versus masked, unvaccinated versus vaccinated, I believe, was part of the cohorting. It's, well, you
That's
saw,
just-
I think that too, it's very complex.
Did Canby send us anything yet?
No, I just verbally was texting back and forth with the board member there, so.
The other,
most of those that have had decisions made, I also believe would have had to have also had prearranged agreements with their associations.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another factor that we're gonna have to figure in too, so
And we'll have that information. at the meeting.
that's definitely part of, yeah. Part of the piece.
well, back to what Christy said. If there's any way that we can get that information the Wednesday beforehand, like really, Diane, I know it's not you. It really like deal breaker Wednesday. Because we just, like, I was still reviewing documents during my lunch hour today at work. It's like we get these late to the party documents and you're expected to make a decision on them, an educated decision in 4 hours. And that's a crucial component that our communities really has a lot of passion for. And I want to be able to speak to my decision.
So you would like, I'm just verbally talking this out, so by Wednesday, the 23rd, you would like to have documentation in place, is that what I'm hearing?
Christy?
If at all possible.
Okay, I'm not saying there isn't gonna be stuff that shows up
Sure.
after that, because
Understand.
But at least some of it, I'm
Some of that.
expecting to be able to read 30 documents regarding this choice. Because this is like a turning point for our children. I feel like,
and it's board work. It's-
yeah,
truly
it's,
board work.
it's
stuff that
intense.
Needs to be.
Yeah, we'll absolutely, do the very best of organizing, kind of organizing.
Or send it to me,
Gotcha.
Ron, I'll read it all. I'm an avid reader, I'll do it.
All right, thank you, Bill, I appreciate it. That was actually much more robust than I thought we might have at this point, so.
Glenn, this is Rich. I had a quick question. I mean, I know Bill and others are trying their best to gather as much information as they can to kind of help us sort of get to the right decision here. And did I hear you say that for those of us who may have additional questions, we'd like to get answers to forward those to you or to Bill or both, or how are we gonna handle that? And what's the sort of, is there a cutoff for get those questions?
What's your comfort level with communication this
Um,
week?
Good, it's actually, I think that, email is great, and
Okay.
it actually it's still,
Ginger has a hard time resting and needs to do something, and so I think she'd be fine.
So Richard, if you could have specific questions to me this week, which is up through the 18th. And then if we could work through getting that, that documentation, some answers to the questions we can't answer them all, but if we can have that stuff back to every board member by the 23rd, I think that would make the 28th a better work session for us and a more informed work session, so.
Okay,
Is that,
thank you.
Richard?
Yep, thank you.
All right, moving on our agenda. Wanted to acknowledge Bill Gropp, one of our board members being appointed to the Asb Board of Directors. How long is that term? You filled the seat that was appointed. or-
Yeah, because I'm just filling out a term, so it's end of the year.
End of the year,
Typically, it's a
okay.
2-year term, but it's, so I'm finishing somebody's term at the end of this year.
So congratulations, and that is our one of our interfaces and representation on the state board from the Marion region. Okay, moving on to.
You mind if I add to that?
Go ahead, go for it.
Just, this is, because I just got the email like right 5 to 6 this morning, or 5 to 6 tonight. I was reappointed to the OED board by the legislator and the governor approved. So I will be on the OED board again for another 4 years.
Okay, good.
Excellent, congratulations. Yeah. Thank you, and representing you and your teachers and that. Okay.
All right, moving on our agenda, it looks like it's Ime and Yadira, if they want to do us ASB report.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing? I think, last time was School Board Appreciation Month. And, or was it this one? This month?
Last one.
Last one. So we try to get that gift out to you guys. Hopefully you received it yet?
It's in the bag.
It's
Yes.
in the
In the
bag.
bag? Okay, in the bag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, we do truly appreciate all of the work that you guys have done for us. And, it's been difficult. And I know you guys are doing your best or trying your hardest. And I just want to let all of you guys know that we do truly appreciate all your hard work. And, maybe it's not always the best to submit a comment and be a little petty with it, but just to truly appreciate all of your guys' work, because I can tell it's really tough, from a student perspective, I can tell how hard it is. So right now what we're actually focusing on, so February is Red Out Month. And if you can't see, we're wearing our little ribbons. So this is a fundraiser. I've been doing this fundraiser for 4 years since my freshman year. It's always been an amazing fundraiser. So we sell these little ribbons for $1. All the proceeds go to the American Heart Association. We are also doing an Italian soda fundraiser that we have been doing during first and second lunch, and we're gonna do it tomorrow as well. We started today, doing it tomorrow. So that's been bringing in some money. Our freshmen are selling heart chocolate boxes. The sophomores are doing little gibbets. There's gonna be a half-court shot at one of the basketball games. So it's just really amazing that our students are being leaders in our community and are setting good examples and showing us what it means to be a good leader, that they do truly care about their school and that they're willing, these are kids that are doing fundraisers and doing things for the better, So that's what we're doing right now for ASB. And something else we have coming up is our, fingers crossed, next month for our SLC, which is our Student Leadership Conference. It would be the first time that North Marion has ever hosted this event. It's usually a Tri-Valley event where we invite other schools, and it's a leadership-based activity. So we share ideas, and we are hoping to get a guest speaker to come. And our theme for this event is students are not just the future, but are the present. We are here, we are ready, not just in the future, but right now, So that's what we're hoping for next month, and to have some schools like Lake Ridge, Sherwood, Jervis, Gladstone, Malala come to the school and share those ideas. So for Key Club, we are trying to get some service opportunities for our students. This is kind of a rough month because we don't have a lot of things coming up, but we do have the Tulip Festival parking, which is always really great. It's super fun. So we're just trying to get some service opportunities ready for our kids, especially our seniors, so they can get their cords, because we need 25 inside Key Club hours and 25 outside Key Club hours. For Mecha, we are starting our dancing, our baile folklorico. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for helping with that. And if you guys haven't seen, Jillian had posted a video on the district page, so it's really awesome, you know, that our kids are getting involved and are getting ready for that dance. And we just did a fundraiser also for Mecha. We did some little Valentine's Day candygrams. It was like a little heart, and you would get a little teddy bear and a chocolate as well if you want to add that on. So we've been doing, we did really good on that fundraiser. We were able to deliver those all out today. And I think that's it for those clubs, and I'll hand that over to you, Dara.
Yeah, so for Fbla, which is Future Business Leaders of America, right now we've been focusing on our Big Brother, Big Sister program, which is partnered up with Mrs. Boswell's classroom over at the primary school. Those are second graders, and we meet with them on Wednesdays during 5th period every 2 weeks. Last Wednesday, we were able to meet with them and kind of have a Valentine's Day themed get together virtually. So we purchased some Valentine's Day candy that we were able to give to them this morning. So they were able to enjoy that. And with yearbook, we've been able to, you know, process our fall photos. So those have been submitted over to Jocelyn's, which processes our yearbook. Right now, we're just trying to get in all of our winter coverage with our sports and hopefully our dance, you know, that's going to be happening on the 26th of this month. With National Art Honor Society, they've been working up with the PTO with getting their kindness stickers ready to hand out soon. And that's a report on those clubs. Anything else?
Besides that, I don't think there's anything else, but like I said, we do truly appreciate all of you guys' work, and we can tell that, you know, our parents have some good input, our students have some amazing input, but you know, where are they right now? You know?
What was the date for SLC?
We are looking at March 12th, but we might have to push it a little bit back since we are wanting to invite the other schools, but some of the other schools are having events that day as well. So we might want to push the day back a little bit further so we can have all of the schools participate.
Let's talk about you getting your guest speaker.
Yes.
Well, and do you need additional support from the school district, from the school board for that?
Not that we know of yet from what we've spoken to Dan and Mark. We're getting this ready, and we've established rules for the event as well, safety protocols for other students, since we are inviting other schools to come. But the only thing is that this event would be held on a Saturday at the school, so we need to worry about classrooms or the lunchroom. The only thing that we would need to worry about is that the only gym that we'll be using is gym 1, but there's kids that will be using gym 3, but we won't be using that gym, so that shouldn't really be a problem. But yeah, so the only thing that I would ask of all of you guys is, you know, it is Red Out Month, and we do have so many more opportunities coming. So I would truly appreciate it if you guys want to support us in any way. If you guys want to, we'll be posting our Venmo soon. So if you guys want to donate to that, or if you want to, you know, any way that you guys can help us to show your support for the student body, we would truly appreciate that. Yes.
You guys do a good job on the Instagram page. I follow you guys.
Yes.
To be able to keep up on everything, and that would be great if you put your Venmo up there.
Yes. Yeah, so just watch out for that. Just look out for that soon. But if you guys want to find other ways to help us, just ask Bill or ask someone and just get in contact with us. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
So I
you.
don't know if you guys have ever clarified. So what positions of leadership do you guys hold on ASB?
So I am ASB president, and then Yadira is ASB vice president.
Nice. Okay, I just didn't know if everybody knew kind of what positions they held. The other thing was on the leadership council or the leadership conference, it includes your entire leadership team. Does it also include leadership from each individual class too, or what's the scope of it?
So we're hoping to include all of our entire ASB group from North Marion.
Nice.
We might limit it just for officers for other schools. I think it's pretty tough at all the schools right now. I think we have a pretty firm ASB right now, but we are maybe we just have a handful of members, so I know other schools don't really have a lot either. But right now, we are just focusing on inviting the other schools, but just doing officer positions, so president and vice presidents of all class, secretary, if they have different coordinators, like events, fundraisers, and et cetera. But from your question earlier, so we're all not only just involved in ASB, but we're also involved in Key Club, Mecha, Fbla, she does yearbook, Safe Club, and we also hold leadership positions in that. So it's been an amazing opportunity. You know, this is my last year at North Marion, and just seeing so much growth in myself from just being at this school and hoping to return to North Marion and become a teacher here. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
guys.
Have a good one.
Moving along, we need to acknowledge an overnight field trip for the FFA to the National Leadership Workshops that are being held in Redmond, March 17th through the 20th. That is just an acknowledgement, so hopefully that's a great event for them. Sounds like a good event. Moving on to 2F, Strategic Planning Board Team Members Report, and that would be Yadira again and Irma. And maybe. I'll let them take the line.
Good evening,
At least you're
everyone. Yes, I am. I'm so happy. No wheelchair. So for those who are out there and don't know about the strategic planning team, it is a team that is represented in many ways. So we have a representative from the following groups. It is a school board and also parents and teachers, that staff, including administrators and students. Yadira is one of our students in the group, and our business also members. And so I think that I didn't miss anyone, right?
No.
That's it.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that we have been working on is to really think about what are our core values as a school district. And so our team has been doing a lot of work in that area. And at our last meeting, we were able to divide into smaller groups to really think about what it is that is unique about North Marion, and what are those principles that we want to hold on to when we think of North Marion. And so the group, we were able to split up into smaller groups. We also were able to look at the survey that had gone out. It's also included in the agenda. And Yadira is going to speak more about that survey in just a minute. But in order to be able to work and take a look at what we thought, we also went through the survey as well and looked at some of the responses that we got from the community and the parents that did do that focus survey.
Mhm. So from the survey, we were able to look at some key points. And as we discussed as a large group, we found out that we really do, a lot of the community members said that, you know, we really need to focus on representing our students, whether that's, you know, as teachers. You know, our student population is like around like 53% of them are Hispanic or Latinos. So we need to also represent that in, you know, with our teachers, you know, make that clear. And that was one of the key items that was discussed in our meeting. Another one was getting support for our students, getting that one-on-one support, and, you know, matching up their education level where they can feel like they can succeed, you know. So that was another key point that we found out as a large group that we really wanted to focus on from the survey. You know, a lot of the community members said, you know, that we need additional support for our students, that our students should feel represented within their teachers. So those are one of the two items that we really found within that survey. Now, as we went on with the meeting, you know, we were asked to, you know, look at for our mission and vision statement for, you know, the North Marion School District. And then from those two items that, you know, we looked at as a large group, we were able to see, okay,
let's see what we can do with our mission and vision statement. How can we represent our students, teachers, staff, and community members within that statement?
And also some of the things that were highlighted that just kept recurring over and over. There were certain words or a group of words that we kept seeing, whether it was when we met together, looking at the surveys. And so some of those things were inclusion, valuing diversity, community parent engagement was another one. We also had high expectations. That was on there several times. And so as we had our group talks and then being able to share out, the conversations were really rich. And I know that Glenn was able to be there and hear some of those. And I think that with those conversations, we were able to kind of focus a little bit more on what we felt was were some issues that we really wanted to talk about, some things that we wanted to focus on with the strategic plan. So we will be working on that vision and mission statement. And so we're starting to work on that. And as Yadira said, I think that it was so impactful to see that survey, that first focus survey come through, and how we as a team really felt that one of the things that was important was to really make sure that the student voice was being heard. And so we're very thankful that both Ime and Yadira are on the strategic planning team.
Can I ask a question now, or are you still? I don't
Can I ask you a
know.
question?
How many surveys were done? Like, how many people responded?
I don't know.
Well, from our focus group, so we were asked as representatives from the team to send it to 5 other people in the community who aren't really heard. So we were able to do that. I know Jillian was able to post it on the school district Facebook page, and I think maybe on the district website. Not 100% sure on that, but I know the survey was posted around the Facebook page. So from there, we were able to get responses from that. Some questions did have longer responses than, others. So that was another factor too.
So the report that is actually in the agenda, I don't know the exact amount of how many are in that.
Yeah, I
report,
didn't see it on there, how many actually responded to the survey.
but we still do have ongoing calling for that survey, so that parents, we want to make sure we're reaching as many parents as we can, and specifically parents who don't typically that we don't typically hear from. And so we are having callers, bilingual callers, call out to families who have not completed their survey yet.
Because I know when I asked people why they weren't taking the survey, because I asked a few people I know, they said that the login process was really hard, and that you would have to have a Google login, and you'd have to go through multiple steps through Google to be able to get a login to it. And they felt by the time they got to the 3rd page, they were like, no, I'm not going to do this. And then they were worried with all the information that they had to enter, that there might be retaliation if it wasn't correct. So I wondered why we couldn't use a Survey Monkey.
That's a good point.
Because a lot of people do not actually use Google. So is that a possibility to look into? Can you take that to the strategic planning?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll report that back because that is an issue.
Yeah, it is.
Of accessibility. I would also mention that I believe student surveys were still part of the pie that had not been executed yet. So middle school and high school, there will be an invitation made to all of those students yet again to fill out the survey, because I don't think that component was done yet.
That's correct. And I do remember that in the survey when I went in as well too, it did ask for an email, so that if a person didn't have an email account, then it would be difficult for them to probably do the survey. So
yeah. certainly want to keep people away from being able to complete the survey. So.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else? No.
Richard, did you have any questions?
No, none here, Glenn. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for this piece.
So just a note on that. They basically come up with a rough draft, but it is this body's work to adopt it, wordsmith it, and put it into, into an actionable plan that we can carry on with, so. Okay, so moving along, looks like our next item is consent agenda.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Sorry, I guess I should have asked all those opposed. That's my bad. Hearing none, motion carries. Presumptuous.
He's got a great ear.
I was kind of waiting for Richard to chime in. He's probably trying to find his mic button, so. All right, moving on to business and budget appropriations. I think, Diane, do we have Linda wanting to share screen on this report? Okay, looks like that's already happening. So somebody's on top of it. Are you there, Linda?
I am, yes. So I did want to point out that for the general fund, we have not settled for license negotiations yet for this current year. So the salaries and benefits that I'm showing for the expenses will change if we settle this year. So the projected ending fund balance right now is 7.95%, but I know that that will change once we settle. So I just did want to point that out. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that our funding will be adjusted. They're hoping for the March payment. It didn't happen for the February payment, but they're hoping. So they always take, we do a report for our ADMW for December 31st, all school districts do. And then they take that and they look at past 3 years, I believe, as to what changed with most schools funding from December to June, calling it their December to June ratio. So they'll take that and they'll adjust our ADMW by the same percentage that's been happening for the last couple of years, and then adjust our funding that way. Right now, we really don't have an indication of which direction that's going to go because so many districts are going one way or the other. They have more enrollment or less enrollment. So very curious to see where that falls for us. I think my next topic is about budget, enrollment, and those sorts of things. So I don't know if you can see this screen, but this is for a school, official enrollment is considered the October 1 enrollment of your school. So this is history of North Marion since 1995, obviously a long, long time. But I wanted to point out that, first of all, our highest enrollment was October of 2015 of 1,992 students. We've been going down steadily since then. And once COVID hit, we've been going down a lot. If you look at what I'm projecting for 2022, so October of 2022, and that was just by taking each year, each grade and tumbling it down. So, you know, if there was 117 second graders, we're going to have 117 third graders and so on. So if we look at it that way, we would end up with 1,633 students, so 63 less than what we have this year. That's a total decrease since 1992 of 359 students. So North Marion has not been growing. Most of our decline has been in the younger grades, K through 2, just like it has been with most of the state. But you can see how large we used to be in some of the other schools and how it's going down. The high school is holding pretty steady. They haven't lost a whole lot, but as these smaller classes move over, I believe the high school will go down a little. We do tend to gain more in the high school than we do in the other grades from year to year. So I wanted to just point that out, kind of prepping you for when we get to the budget information and those sorts of things that are coming, that, you know, maybe our funding's not going to be as robust as it has been. But if the state is down by, I don't remember the number they gave me, 12,000 students, then maybe our funding won't be affected quite as much because the whole state is down. So it's just food for thought for now and something to keep in mind as we move along. My next piece of information that I had for you guys to look at was to do with our enrollment versus our staffing and how that has changed through the years. So I just did this from the 15-16, our highest enrollment year, to our what I'm projecting for 22-23. And as far as staffing, I didn't add more or take any away because we really aren't that far in our budgeting process. But what I'm pointing out here, or what I want to point out here, is that as our enrollment has gone down, our staffing has gone up. And if you look at the summary, our enrollment, estimating it'll be down 359 in that time period, and our staffing is up 20.4. I'm not sure that we can continue to staff the way we've been staffing if our funding is not going to grow with how we're doing it. So it might be time to look at different models, different ways to do things. The top part is something that I think we saw in our budgeting information last year, and it's just showing the administrators building and the ratio of the enrollment to the administrators. So this is just by building. There's also the 5 administrators we have that are district-wide administrators. So just food for thought. Again, you'll see this all again when it comes to budgeting. My other thoughts on the budget are we did have a very good revenue forecast that came out last week. The state seems to be very rich at the moment and has plenty of money. But when asked point blank if the schools were going to get more of that, the answer was probably not this year, not in the 22-23 year, that maybe we'll get more in the following biennium. But right now, we're looked at as being having plenty of income, according to the legislators. So we'll see if that changes as they look at things. I know they're looking at a bill for sending money towards districts for retention of retired people or people that are thinking of retiring, to keep more people in the schools. I don't know whether that'll. I just wanted to give you some picture at the moment of where we're at. Any questions for me?
I had a question. I'm just curious if you have the data to show how these changes in enrollment and staffing have translated into changes in class sizes over that period of time.
That's something that we can get. It's really hard to do that at the higher levels, middle school on up, but it probably is a simpler task at the elementary level. One thing you have to remember is just because you have, say, let me go back to my other spreadsheet. If you have 106 kindergarten children, maybe not every one of those is in a classroom. Maybe some of them are in a special education class or some other class, and not, you might not be able to say, okay, we have 6 kindergarten teachers, divide that by 6, and that's your number. That's not always the way it is. I think Diane might even have some of that information from years past, so we can look for something like that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Any other questions? All right, moving on to item number 5, board action. I just realized, my apologies. We were supposed to order Ben and Matt earlier in this agenda, and that did not get done. Will they be with us tonight, or?
I believe they've been waiting.
Okay, so my apologies. We were supposed to get you guys on earlier because it is Valentine's, and I think you wanted to spend it with your significant others, so.
Well,
That was my bad.
no,
Would you like to see her?
I do. I hope, Ben and Matt, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
That's Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hello. Yep.
And thank you guys for hanging out. So this work has been quite a few months making. And I'm thankful that Ben and Matt are here because they've been very, very involved in all of the work. So we're here tonight with a recommendation for new Spanish materials, instructional materials. And we have a presenter. You have this in your board report. Were there any questions?
There you go.
We can keep going. Linda, is that you? We have the same goals for this adoption that we have for every adoption. We're looking for the very best instructional materials that meet the needs of our demographic groups and our teachers to do the best job they can in effective teaching. So next. I'm going to pause right here and see if Ben and Matt would like to speak a little bit to the world language standards, because they're in a different format than any other of our content standards. And so Ben or Matt, would you like to speak a little bit to the world language standards?
I can. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so world language standards are not necessarily like content-based. They're more of a skill-based standard, and they're arranged based on the ACTFL standards that are kind of nationwide. And they build from like from novice low up through advanced high level. And each level has different levels of success, being able to communicate verbally, being able to read, write, understand things. So they're divided into different categories of receptive and productive and interpersonal skills in speaking, reading, writing, listening. So very different than most other standards that we have in the school.
Thank you. So the last adoption was in 2004. So our materials were very, very outdated, and times have changed since 2004. And so what we really were looking for are hardbound books plus a digital format for students. What we always try to do is invite our teachers to the summer work where the state materials are reviewed and adopted for recommendation to school districts. And Ben was able to serve on that committee last summer. So that was really helpful to our process. Thank you, Ben, for doing that work. He had some inside information as part of that review committee, which we found to be very helpful. So we really have been working on this in the Wednesday mornings as a PLC. It's largely the work of the Spanish team, Ben and Matt, with my support. And we followed the same process as you can see there for all of our other adoptions, created a rubric, reviewed all the materials. And we piloted 2 of our top choices. We can move on to the next slide. Sorry, I missed this one. Equity lens, we use the same equity evaluation rubric as we have used in other adoptions, but we tailor it to each of the content area, depending on what is needed for that content area. But for this one, we were really concerned that the materials had a lot of engagement strategies, differentiation strategies, and rigor for teaching our students Spanish. Okay. So process is really to prepare, get our timeline in place, establish our equity lens, our vision for the process, to study all the materials. There's a link there for all of those materials. You were on the right page. Whoops. Review all of the vendor caravan information. We decided to research, through our research, we decided to pilot 2 different vendors. And that pilot included the teachers using the materials in class. And then we got student input from all classes that were accessing those materials. We analyzed that data, and the teachers did the same thing. And then at the very end, we just reviewed all the data that we had. And that's what led us to a recommendation tonight. We can go to next. So we wondered what other districts in our area were doing with the Spanish adoption. And so this was a sampling of the districts that I reached out to. You can see where districts are not all in the same place. It's interesting to note that Estacada selected the same 2 vendors that we did for piloting. And Woodburn actually just adopted the one that we're recommending tonight as well. Okay. So here's the recommendation. Here are the reasons why. Ben and Matt, I'll let you speak to some of these reasons. What was important to you in the decision to select Savas Auténtico?
Well, I'll speak to as far as the visual quality of the videos and the audio. There was definitely a better, higher quality with the Savas. And they also had a lot more audio activities and videos. So there was more of them, not just that there was a higher quality, but there was more activities for reinforcement, for listening. There was a lot more activities for the reading and the writing. So it seemed like Savas, they're very, it made a lot of sense with the amount. They didn't provide or expect too much vocabulary and then not have the activities to reinforce that. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick, so sorry, my voice is kind of going out. But Auténtico seemed like they had a very good amount of vocabulary and a good pace, and there was enough reinforcement where it really it improved and gave the kids opportunities to learn the material. And the engagement was good. There was a lot of engaging activities and cultural opportunities to learn about cultures. So all in all, I felt like it was a better a textbook all around. And I think the kids actually in the end, when they did their assessment, because they took both textbooks, then we took a unit from each book, and they actually preferred the Auténtico as well. So that was my take on it.
Thank you. You have something to add, Ben?
Yeah, you said most of the things that we looked at. In addition, the organization of the textbook is very well sequenced for acquiring the language and for being able to adapt it to if we feel like introducing extra things and things like that to continue with the engagement. And just also that reinforcement that each unit is built around less skills than maybe you might have seen in a traditional textbook before, where you can dig deep enough and has enough reinforcement that you can learn through the activities that are in the book.
Two things that impressed me were the level of differentiation. So if a student needed extra support, they could get that. If a student needed extension or enrichment, that was available for students. And then assessment. So there are multiple opportunities for students to practice, do self-checks, and self-assess where they were with regard to their level.
I'd like to add to that, Sherry, just thinking about it, with the opportunity we have nowadays for kids to have access to materials online, the textbook is decent, but the things that are built into the online curriculum truly add more to it. And they have those opportunities where they can get self-assessment and checks and reinforcement, as well as like additional quality material that's available to them through the online textbook or resources.
And just watching the videos, I took 4 years of French in high school, didn't serve me very well, but I mean, it was really engaging as a non-Spanish speaker. You could just see the context that they were striving for with this at a student's level. And so our recommendation, next slide, is just now, what is it going to cost? You can see we are ordering levels 1, 2, and 3. Different numbers of books because we have more classes at the levels 1 and 2. The digital license is included with the textbook, and teachers' editions are gratis, they're for free. And then professional development for the teachers has also been included. Along with the actual cost to purchase the materials, we like to put aside funds for the teachers to plan together. So they are working on their projection maps, which is the big roadmap scope and sequence for the course based on the standards. But now with the materials, they will need to be putting their unit maps together. And they do work together and align for the courses that they both teach. So the courses are very, very similar for the middle school and the high school for Spanish. Are there any questions? Yes.
When we've done you've done a lot of work with adopting a large amount of curriculum in the past 2 years, and it's been a heavy workload, and I really appreciate the staff because I know how much work has gone into this. So thank you for that, Sherry. When we talk about professional development being included in the budget, I just wanted to, because I learned something, and I thought maybe you'd like to elaborate on that, that not only includes like, we're budgeting time for teachers, not just to go to training and stuff, but to actually, do you want to explain exactly?
So I think maybe what we're getting to is there's 2 types of professional development. So there's the professional development included from the publisher, who will actually work with the teachers how to navigate and, you know, all the options that are there. And then the other professional development really has to do with additional time that will be required outside of their contract day for Ben and Matt to sit and work together to do the planning and the unit maps. And that is what I think you're referring to. So that 40 hours is additional time. Oftentimes that happens in the summer for them to work together, and they are paid additionally outside the contract for that time. I realize we're making the recommendation in February, and they may have some time in their Wednesday mornings because Ben and Matt, you know, work really well in their Wednesday mornings together since secondary has the same time. It's harder to do when you're doing a K-12 adoption because the 2 levels don't have the same Wednesday morning time, but that is just afforded to make sure that they are well prepared and planned for instruction to begin in the fall. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Heidi. And the expectation from the state is that we're adopting now and that we're implementing using these materials in the fall. So we're right on track with this world language adoption according to the state guidelines. We're trying to get right on track with all of the adoptions. So you'll be hearing from us in May or June about the K-12 ELA adoption. Yeah, so, and next year's math.
Oh, gosh. You gotta pump that in the lips.
Yeah.
It's like 2 or 3.
She's powerhouse.
Now and honestly, we really want to thank the board for your support in this. I think when we look at the outdated materials that our teachers have been trying to use, they're picking and pulling from all sorts of places. That's not an effective use of their time. And it really drags the process down. So Ben and Matt have been really great about investing a great deal in the process. So I want to appreciate them and also all of you. And with that, could I just take a little aside? I know this is a board action. The bags are gifts from ASB, the high school, from Ime and Yadira. Also included is a book, and that is from the teaching and learning team. So we weren't able to come in person last month when it was school board appreciation, but I want to just take this moment to thank each of you for all the hard work. And it's really clear how much you want to support teaching and learning in the district. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The teachers appreciate it a great deal, as do I.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve staff's recommendation for the adoption of the SALA Spanish language program material for the upcoming school year.
And I'll second. Oh, I'll give it to Ricardo. No, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to Ricardo.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor of adoption, please say aye.
Aye.
All those- Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the report. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ben. Much appreciated. Much appreciate you hanging on here on Valentine's Day.
I forgot to mention, there's something in the inside of your book cover that tells a little bit about the book. So,
Thank
okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So a couple weeks ago, moving on our agenda, I tasked Christy and Bill with coming up with a resolution. You guys want to present it in some capacity?
Bill's a great reader.
Hold on, I gotta find
want
it. I don't have.
Billy,
the,
use mine.
Okay, you have it up there.
Yeah.
So the equity committee proposes for board consideration resolution 02.14.2022-01, a resolution of the North American School Board of North Marion School Board Directors conveying appreciation to all staff and their commitment to equity for all students. I'll skip the whereases if you don't mind and go right to the resolution. Now therefore be it resolved on this 14th day of February 2022 by the Board of North Marion School District that the school board wishes to acknowledge and thank all staff for their commitment to serving students equitably in these difficult times and for being open to new ideas in pedagogy and technology to help all students continue their learning throughout the pandemic. The board supports equity in student academics, social and emotional learning, and all activities both during and after school. We commend our staff's dedication to innovative thinking and programming in order to facilitate equitable opportunities for student participation in classroom and extracurricular events in accordance with pandemic operations. The board's goal of achieving a fully enriched program, including diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students and staff is critical for the success of our students' educational outcomes. The board supports all staff in their efforts to achieve equitable outcomes for all North Marion students. The district is committed to supporting continuous development, improvements, and innovation to deliver the best educational outcome for our students. Adopted this 14th day of February 2022. That motion or that resolution is in front of the board.
Wait, hear a motion?
I don't want to do my own. I will.
I can do this thing. I make a motion that we accept and approve the resolution 2022.02.14. Do I need to read that any piece of it?
No.
Said that?
That's it.
Yeah.
As presented.
As presented, sorry. I was having a moment.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving presented motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I don't have anything further. I think we flushed out the timeline on questions, on concerns for moving forward with the workshop this next, in 2 weeks from tonight. So if we could, if you could get your questions in, and then we will try and get communication out on a timely basis. I know these are big things to deal with, so.
Are we gonna have enough time to still do policy JFC that same night, or are we gonna need to move that?
Nope, that'll be included.
Plus the superintendent evaluation?
Yeah, it's gonna be brief.
Okay.
And if, honestly, if the workload is too much, we'll refine it to what's most important, but.
Okay.
But, yeah.
That's what I'm
I think
looking
what's
for.
before us is, in terms of this is probably top of mind, but we do have Paul DeCopolis coming on the other issue. And so, but yeah, I'm prepared to work. Yeah.
Got it.
All right, it is 7:55. With that, I will gavel us down since we've been through all of our business. Much appreciated, and we're adjourned.
So
See you, Richard.